Welcome back to another episode of Riverside's Theater Putting It Together. And by it, we mean shows. Riverside Theater is the only professional producing theater on Florida's Treasure Coast. And as a producing theater, we create our own shows right here for our stages in Vero Beach. And today, we're in the paint shop, and we're talking to Amy Brooks, our Scenic Charge artist. Now, Amy, what does that title mean?
So being a Scenic Charge is, I'm the head of the paint shop, so I have a crew of people to help me paint the sets that come to me from the carpentry department. So my job is basically I call it makeup. I put makeup on the scenery. So so we do backdrops, we do faux finishes, we do stencil work, wallpaper, all kinds of stuff. I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I started when I was in high school, and I didn't realize that this was an actual job, and I was hooked. So I did my first backdrop when I was 15. It was the Pretty Lady drop for 42nd Street, and I spent my spring break in high school painting a drop with a handful of people, and it was so much fun. Like we became like a group of painters, and then after that, like I just kept going, and it was so much fun.
Little community of creative people.
What
is a drop exactly? For those who don't understand, they've seen it. They might not know what it is though.
Right. So backdrops are like the show drop that you might see when you're walking into a theater. It could be anything. It could be painted curtains, real curtains. It could be
a landscape,
or a face, or whatever. And it could be in the front. It could be anywhere on the stage and flies in and out. Sometimes it's what's called dead hung, so it stays there the entire show. Like for Thoroughly Modern Millie, they had the cityscape of New York in the back the entire time. It was lit in different ways, and it was pretty cool. So so drops are a lot of fun.
So it's a big canvas.
It's a piece of canvas that could be small. It could be the entire width of the stage, height, whatever.
And how do you know what to paint? What do you get from the set designer, the scenic designer?
Right. So back here you see renderings, pictures. Basically, the designer will send me a picture of what his image is. And my job is to go from tiny to big, So
there's math involved.
There's lots of math involved, lots of layout, because it's we get a scale rendering. So this is a 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So we have to figure out how to order the right amount of soft goods, fabric, paint, and a big part of my job is figuring out the math of how long it's going to take to do something like that. So, usually we have 6 weeks to do this entire build. So that includes the rolling units, the backdrops, the stuff that kind of that doesn't move, that stays, right? So, I have to figure out how, if this is a complicated thing, do we have the budget? Do we have the time to get more people in, or do we have money to do with this material versus this material? So we have those conversations daily, and we have production meetings every week, talking about where are we, who needs what, like what department needs the most help at that time, right? So we check in daily, but we also have a big group production meeting every week.
And you mentioned the drops being backlit or front lit. Obviously the paint samples need to be able to work with the need of the show,
sure,
right?
Yes.
So is this part of something that helps you?
Yes. So this is our dye chart, and it's basically all the fabric dyes that we have in stock. We use that a lot for translucent drops. So when they're backlit, they look different than how they are when they're front lit. And this helps us with color mixing too, because it's like, oh, I could do any of these blues for the sky, but if I throw in a little bit of melon, then how is that going to affect, how it mixes elsewhere? And are we going to brush it on? Are we going to spray it on? Are we, there's a whole technique process, but looking at this helps me like figure out how to mix it. And then looking at the rendering and talking with the designer, we figure out a method of how I'm going to do it and how I can distribute the labor out with my other painters.
I know in talking to Jordan and Emily that you're all part of the initial production meeting and with putting the show together and talking to the set designer. But you don't get the pieces to work on until they're done in the scene shop. Do you pre-plan things sort of so that you have it once it comes off the assembly line, in essence, it's now on you?
Yes. Yeah, as soon as that piece of scenery is done, I have a plan for it. Like I have to. Otherwise I'll go crazy. But no, there's pretty much like a bunch of different materials that we use. Sometimes it's something that I have to carve. Sometimes it's just a flat piece of wood. So depending on what it is, like we do a lot of, like for instance, we had to do a mural of a man's face on pre-formed brick. So it was like figuring out how we're gonna do that and where it's gonna get set up, like that kind of stuff.
So you test things before they actually come.
Yeah, I have to do a sample of pretty much everything before I get to, just so I know, what I want to do, how to make it look right. So and then I have to do that so I can discuss it with my painters, so I can give them a visual of how we're gonna do this from start to finish.
Is there any little special magic trick that you've done to a piece of wood that appears differently on stage?
I can make wood look like pretty much anything else. Like I've made wood look like wood. I've made wood look like stone. I've made wood look like marble. We do that a lot.
And not just wood.
And it's just, it starts as wood, and then I faux finish it to make it look like whatever the show needs.
But it's not just wood, it's all different types of material that you work with.
Yeah, and we have to kind of blend it all together to make sure that it, is a unified piece and it looks like what the picture is. So, for instance, we made a treasure chest rock piece for Moana Jr., which is probably going to go up fairly soon, hopefully. And it started off as a wood base, and then Joe and I collaborated on how to make it look like rock, but still be lightweight because it's got to move and kids are on it, so it's got to be structural. And we ended up using Scenic Dope, which is a mixture of like glue and caulk and like some other stuff, and cardboard. So it went from wood to cardboard to Scenic Dope, like Mod Podge, basically, like just a mixture, and then we put texture and paint on it to look like rock. And then we threw in some like metallics just to make it look sparkly, like it's supposed to, and like it was described in the script, basically. And honestly, that was one of my most fun projects for that whole the whole build. So yeah, I mean, we kind of, it's really a project by project based thing, and sometimes we take more time on something, and that means we have to take time away from something else. But it's like, okay, well, I can simplify the process on this if I can do this and this and this on this project, if that makes sense.
That's great. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for taking some time and sharing with our viewers, especially our audiences, of what it takes, at least from this department, on putting a show together. Well, thank you for watching this episode. We hope you stay tuned for our next one.